us started.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Job Club. I'll just briefly go over the agenda for today and some other key points before our guest speaker begins. So welcome. Alrighty, so Job Club, of course, like I mentioned today, we're online. We're also, online live on Facebook. So be sure to share that as well before I go on here. But today we're going to talk about our success stories. We're going to, of course, introduce our main speaker. We're going to be sharing any active job leads that we have, planner partner updates, and we'll also share some information about the next time at Job Club. So stay tuned for all of that. Okay, Job Club is currently hosted in a Zoom webinar. Participants in the webinar can hear and see the presenters. Attendees are not active on mics or cameras. So, excuse me. So if you choose to participate in the chat box, your name will be public to the group. Just want to let you know that before we go on to the next slide here. Okay, so once again, welcome to those viewing on Facebook Live. If you would like to engage with the community, if you would like to engage with the Job Club community and receive our job lead newsletter, register at www.ukalumni.net/jobclub. All right. So let's see here. Employers and recruiters are always welcome at Job Club. Employer guests may have speaking privileges to share a 1 minute spotlight to share active job leads with the group later in the program. Alrighty, and of course we have our Job Club facilitators. We have Miss Diana Doggett, Carolyn Francis, Amanda Shagney, and of course myself, Nicole Waite. Diana works as a county extension agent and family consumer sciences at the Fayette County Extension Office. Carolyn Francis, the Director of Alumni Career Services at UK Alumni Association. And then Amanda Shagney, Associate Director of Alumni Career Services at UK Alumni Association. And me, myself, I work as an employment specialist at UK Steps Temporary Employment in HR. Oh, we definitely want to give a shout out. Let me not fail to mention and give a shout out to Ellie Goodman, UK Alumni Association, Hannah Sims, UK Alumni Association, and Susan Smith, Fayette County Extension Office. Alrighty. Okay, so let's see here. Our mission, of course, is to provide a positive environment for job seekers to network and learn best practices for the job search. We meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, and you can find the schedule of topics at www.ukalumni.net/jobclub. Our current schedule is tentative as we are adapting, I should say, to the needs of our audience and shifting to Zoom webinar format due to COVID-19. Alrighty, so some people in the webinar are conducting a confidential job search. So let's please be respectful of privacy for the job search of others. We ask that you check out job search related articles included in our Job Club reminder emails. And please keep the engagement in the chat box positive always. All righty, we're gonna pass.
Thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm Diana Doggett, and I would like to welcome a special welcome to our first timers. And we would love for you to tell us where you're viewing or listening from today in the chat box. It's always great to hear from you, to see all the many places that have tuned in today. And we are just, we're excited that you are here, especially if it is your first time. And please note that you will receive a follow-up survey later today. And this feedback is real essential because it places you in our notification system for future programs. So please look forward to that today and fill that little survey out, and we will get you checked in so you will hear of all the great things that are planned for the future. I want to encourage everyone to take time to review our free Job Club resource packet. And this is online. You can locate that at our ukalumni.net/jobclub/welcome packet. And it's also on the Fayette County Extension website. But this has an amazing amount of information, much of which is covered by monthly at all of our sessions, but we have put together this comprehensive packet so that you can have it as an easy resource at any time. So there's job search facts, there's Central Kentucky networking opportunities, which really carries out throughout the state, informational interview tips, resume review checklist. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, but it is really worth your while to check that out. We also want to mention that we'd love for you to join the Central Kentucky Job Club sharing community site on LinkedIn. So this is an opportunity to stay in touch in between our Job Club sessions, and many times we are posting jobs there that we may have heard of since we released our list on each and every afternoon of our Job Club sessions. So check out and join us on LinkedIn. Great. Part of our Job Club session is to share success stories. And we're always anxious to do that. We know that this is really an important aspect of Job Club because, you know, the ultimate goal is to get a job. And but that's not always what we designate as a job, as a success story. So what we'd love for you to do now in the chat box is just tell us anything that's happened before, if you're a newcomer, it can be anything. If you have joined us in past sessions, what's been a success in your job search? And I'm seeing one here. I found a promising opportunity with a former employer. Wow. You know, that networking, reaching out, making sure you've left on great terms can always come back to benefit you. So that's a great one. Any more success stories? If you will recall, and if you joined us last time, you can remember that our session was on resume writing. And Amanda and Caroline shared such great insight to doing that. So anyone update their resumes or had them reviewed or just took another look at that? That is a success story. That is a step in hopefully landing interviews and perhaps getting the job that is best suited for you. Don't be shy. Anyone else want to share a success story, interview? Okay, we do have an update on a resume from Jana. And after earning my registered dietitian, nutritionist, oh, wow. So ready to be real specific with what you have, what you're able to include in that as a new credential. Absolutely. Any other success stories you would like to share? This is really encouraging to everyone, and I think it keeps us on our toes to say, yeah, you know, each and every day. And networking, I always love it, and we really expect it to be a success story, to know that you networked, you reached out to former coworkers, as Sam did, and you know, that's statistics say that's where the jobs are, is through networking and knowing someone and getting that personal lead. Well, these were great examples, and we encourage you. Today's session's on LinkedIn. We fully expect that hopefully these success stories will include your joining or updating your data on LinkedIn and realizing what a great resource that is. And speaking of our session, it's a pleasure. We're so excited. Drew is no stranger to Job Club, and we're just welcoming him back again as one of our all-time favorite speakers. He just knows his stuff, and you're going to understand that after you hear his presentation on LinkedIn. Drew Giovanazzi is a talented acquisition professional with more than 7 years of experience in recruiting and staffing, serving a variety of industries, including banking, healthcare, and manufacturing. Drew has a BA in sociology from the University of Illinois. And we are really, really pleased to have you and welcome you and look forward to your presentation. Welcome, Drew.
Morning. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here, as always. So I'll keep an eye on my comments here and my screen. If anybody can't hear me or I need to adjust it all, please let me know. But thank you again, Diana, Amanda, and Caroline for having me here today. So I'm here today to talk about LinkedIn, the efficacy of that program here. And how I think you can utilize that service in your job search and in networking, and just in general as a professional to kind of help elevate your profile and kind of boost your reputation, within your community here. So, guys, if it's easiest, I have, should I share my screen here? Are we able to kind of click through? What is the easiest way to press that presentation on?
Hey, Drew, if you'll just say next slide, Ellie can progress for you.
Perfect. That will work. All right. So this is a little bit about me here just as we get started. This is my soon to be better half, my fiance, Sam. And, as Diana mentioned here, I graduated from the University of Illinois in 2013. I had a bachelor's degree in sociology. I started working in Chicago. I'm from the south suburbs of Chicago myself, and I worked for a staffing firm there for about 2 years, and I recruited predominantly allied healthcare professionals, anything outside of nursing within the hospitals in that area. I moved to Kentucky about 5 years ago now. At this point, and I started working for Aerotech Recruiting, which was a big part of my time getting to know the job club here in Kentucky and in central Kentucky, the Lexington area. I worked there for about 4 years, and I recruited manufacturing, a lot of skilled labor, and I ended up selling our services for professional services, which was predominantly customer service, accounting. Some of you may have seen me out at the job club talking about some call center positions as well. I took about a year with the Forcht group of Kentucky and did recruiting and HR work for that group. And as I was starting to do my presentation here, was still with the Forcht group of Kentucky. Life changes on top of a pandemic, on top of an election year and everything else crazy. We did decide to relocate to Louisville to be a little bit closer to home for my fiance's family. And as she studies for her doctorate in occupational therapy, we decided to come out to Louisville. And I just recently began working with Baptist Health Hospital here in Louisville. So I'm currently covering areas in Louisville and LaGrange, but do have some connections here to the Lexington Baptist Health System as well. I would be happy to discuss some of those opportunities with anybody who's interested here too. So if we can move to that next slide. So just kind of a general overview here on what LinkedIn is. As we kind of talked about earlier, it's an online network for anyone really, but specifically business professionals and students. It's designed for professional networking. We saw in the comments here earlier some folks that are working with some old coworkers, some friends, trying to hear about new opportunities. That is the basic platform of LinkedIn. Is a virtual service to connect with people you do know, some folks that may be in your industry and some folks you may not know, but that can be mutually beneficial for one another. So it can help establish those relationships, broadcast your qualifications and your skills, and your desire to work as well. It may present job opportunities to you just through scrolling, and folks can find you on that service as well. And that maybe not posting those jobs elsewhere. It's a great opportunity just to see what else is out there and to continue kind of learning about your field. We can move to the next slide. What can you accomplish while on LinkedIn? Well, there's a lot of different things. LinkedIn's really not a one-size-fits-all type of service. You can basically use this service to put a social spin on your resume. There's a fine line within that platform, and I'll kind of touch on that a little bit throughout the presentation here. But you're looking to utilize this social media platform in a professional way while not just regurgitating your resume. So you're basically connecting your work experience, your education, any skills or accomplishments, and potentially references from your colleagues, and you're putting that all in one place that's consumable for potential employers to see. And the great thing about that service is it connects your experience directly to those companies' pages. And we'll look through that a little bit more throughout this presentation. But the great thing about it is that it really, really creates a virtual web that connects you to all those places. But generally speaking, this service can help you network. It can help you search for work. And it's a knowledge-based platform as well. There's great articles. There's great links out to different things you can read through to educate yourself on your field, to educate yourself on the state of the job economy, a number of different things there to stay up to date on. Next slide. So where do you start? Well, there's a number of places. I'm sure if you've looked at LinkedIn, you've probably seen it's pretty similar in its setup to a Facebook, maybe a Twitter, but specifically kind of that Facebook type platform. And when I kind of talk about having a social spin on your professional resume, this is what we mean. So we want a professional photo. We want to have a headline that basically shows who you are, what you're looking for, much like you probably learned in your resume building session last week or last session, where you want to address any concerns. You want to summarize your experience, summarize who you are at that kind of top piece of your resume. That headline section will be similar, and we'll dive in here shortly. But you want to add and highlight any relevant professional or volunteer experience you may have. LinkedIn has a terrific section for skills, accomplishments, references. There's a number of different ways it offers you to put those things out to the world. And again, in a networking type of way where other folks can verify those skills for you. But basically, you want to use this service as a digestible version of who you are, where you've been, and what you can offer a company. And not just spitting out your resume of all of those individual tasks that you've maybe had at some past jobs. So, building out your page is first and foremost where we start. We'll walk through step by step here, just what that service offers and what that page looks like. But then from there, you really want to go about building your network, finding people who are in your industry, either in similar jobs or folks who can maybe help find you jobs, like myself as a recruiter, other HR folks. And you'll want to utilize the search feature as well to really fully utilize that service. So we can dive in here and move on to the next slide. The first essential that I'll talk about is that headline. So what we're really looking for in this section here, you can see circled under my name there on my profile. Your headline should showcase your specialty. It should help increase your findability. So I'm sure in your resume building session again, there was probably some talk about keywords. Your keywords are what's going to make you findable for an employer like myself to go ahead and type in, I am looking for a maintenance tech. You'll want searchable, findable titles within this section of your profile. And you want to be careful with those as well, and how you're using them. I said on the last slide to dress for the job you want, and that's true of your entire profile, from your picture to the language you're using, the headlines, the way you describe your job. You don't want to just say what you've done if you're looking to make a career change. I think that's a lot of what people are doing here, is either looking for a career change or just looking for work in general. You want to relate to the field you're looking for. The biggest mistake I think people make is staying very stagnant within the field they've maybe been in and not adapting to where they'd like to go. So I'll show an example here on the next slide that sort of shows what I'm talking about there. On the top right here, we see Jane Doe. This is an example of maybe a college student or a recent graduate, but you can kind of parlay this into another situation where maybe you're making a career change, you've been out of work for a while, what have you. But in this particular situation, Jane is a student or a recent graduate. Jane worked at Michigan Tech University as a dining services supervisor. That's great. Jane put herself through school. She was working to make that happen. But if you see on the bottom left, Jane is also a mechanical engineering student. Jane went to Michigan Tech. She had maybe done some research or some internships within manufacturing and new product design. On the bottom left, you'll see Jane as a mechanical engineering professional. On the top right, you may not. That's really an opportunity for you to put yourself out to the world in the way that you would like to. Put yourself in the light you'd like to be seen in. This is a terrific opportunity to put a number of different keywords, a number of different titles, whether that's your degree as a new grad, whether that's internship experience you had, maybe entrepreneurial experience that you've had. This is a tremendous way to highlight and say who you are as a professional, and who you want to be in your next position. As a quick example, mine at this point says recruiter at Baptist Health. I want people to know where I work and what I do. And then if somebody sees my profile, they can contact me if they're interested in a career opportunity with Baptist Health. Before I had something similar when I was with the Forcht group, of the types of jobs that I was recruiting, just because that company was so very diverse, that it was maybe sometimes challenging for people to see, okay, Forcht, I know at the bank. I also did a great deal of healthcare, and that's what I used the LinkedIn service for. And so that was something I wanted to share. And I had recruiting, banking, healthcare, and financial professionals. This is simply an opportunity for you to say who you are and what you want to do. It doesn't have to be a strict job title of where you've been most recently. So take advantage of that. So on our next slide, the next section down that you'd kind of want to take a look at is your about section. And again, this is another great opportunity to kind of piggyback on that summary section you've probably discussed within your resume building sessions. But this basically is your elevator speech. If anybody's heard, what an elevator speech is, if you had maybe a sales background or something like that, elevator speech is essentially you walk into the elevator and it's you and another person and you want to make that conversation, tell that person what you do. It's your 30-second kind of roundabout way of saying who you are, what you can offer somebody, and where you've been. So, I think mine was sort of repeated here a little bit as an introduction, which is great. I'm glad it worked as such. But I'll repeat it to kind of, to reiterate that. I would say my name is Drew. I'm a talent acquisition professional with about 7 years of experience in the field. I've worked with a variety of industries, including banking, healthcare, and manufacturing. I want to work as an expert, as a partner, and I strive to impact the lives of my coworkers, my clients, by working on creative solutions to complex problems. So there's a number of pieces here that I really liked, and it doesn't have to be so complex. It doesn't have to be so long. I like to kind of put that together as an explainer of who I am. But as you parse through this, I'm a recruiter. I've been in the field for 7-8 years. So I have some good experience. You can trust the experience that I have. if you're looking for a job in these few fields, I'm your guy to come talk to. As I kind of work through some of the language on these next few sentences, I say I'm an expert in these industries, but I'm also a partner. A big thing from that came from my staffing background, where I really wanted to be a partner to companies and to folks like yourself who were interested in job opportunities with my company. I want to partner with you to help find a solution to the problems we're facing. Within that, I like to have creative solutions. I like doing things like Job Club that are maybe a little bit outside the box as a recruiting tool. And I like to work on those complex problems by working as a team. For anybody else using this, again, it's here's where I've been, here's who I am, but here's where I want to go. Don't be afraid to use this and say, I'm making a career change. I'm interested in entrepreneurial opportunities, and explain yourself in a very conversational way, on that particular section. So we can move ahead to the next slide. And I've kind of addressed a couple of these things here, but again, address, any concerns an employer may have. Don't be afraid to say why you've had a gap in your employment. Be cautious about the types of information, maybe protected information you're sharing, whether that comes to a disability, a personal or family, medical situation. You don't want to give an employer a potential reason to be concerned about you by reading that section, but don't be afraid to address any concerns they may have. I was a stay-at-home mom for the last few years. I took off of work to pursue my degree. Explain yourself and share that information in a way that maybe you couldn't on a resume. So here's kind of just my header section. As a whole, you'll see a professional picture here just with a plain back shot, our background. If you don't have, professional photo taken, or you don't have the ability to have that done, what I would consider, doing is finding a blank wall, kind of like I have behind me here, having somebody take a photo, of you. I wouldn't do your selfie mode. I would try to avoid pictures where you have a lot of noise in the background. Ultimately, you want something kind of clean and concise behind you so that they can see you. I have on an open collar. I have a suit on. If you're in a different field and you're trying to relay a different message, wear something that kind of relays that message. But ultimately, again, you want something that you took specifically for this particular purpose, as much as possible, just so you can have that kind of clean view of you. But you see recruiter at Baptist, you see where I'm from, in Louisville, Kentucky. You see my recent employer and where I went to school. All these things are great to kind of draw connections with people. I found in my career here, especially in Kentucky, the more you can kind of connect with people on one or two things and throw out where you went to school, who you know, where you're from, that really can kind of help grease the wheel as you look for a new employment. So on the next slide, I have a couple additional tips. And this is a personal one for me. Some people may tell you differently. I think this may be evolving a little bit with time. But I always suggest that people write in the first person. You don't need to have this as if it was written by somebody else. We all know, as we looked at your LinkedIn, you're writing it, and that's okay. So write for yourself. I did this. I'm doing this. This is who I am. Some folks may say, hey, Drew is a talent acquisition professional. I find that reads a little awkward, but that's a suggestion that I would make. You want to apply those keywords carefully. And this is something I found with some experience in recruiting. Be cognizant of the words that you're using. As we kind of talk about job titles or job responsibilities, be aware if they may be relatable to other fields. What you'll really want to know is that they're going to find you for the purpose you want them to, and not some other kind of job because you put some fancy keywords in there, something that just didn't quite relate. You always want to be explanative on LinkedIn, conversational, and don't just copy paste from your resume. Again, this is an opportunity to share information about yourself and who you really are. I'll share more about that in this next section here of professional experience, but you want to have this as relatable as possible. I see the question from Joanne here just about where did I pull a banner from. I actually just Googled a banner of Louisville's city background. I wanted something that kind of related to where I was from here and working now. But that's something where if you look up, LinkedIn will have specific parameters on what fits that space. Again, you want a high definition picture wherever possible. That particular one was just a stock image that I pulled from Google. You don't have to have anything in that particular section. But as Amanda said here, there's a number of great options you have where they're specifically formatted for that space. That's a spot where you can put a little bit of that personal flair on. Again, be cognizant of it's a professional website. Let's keep things clean and professional in that way. But totally okay to share a little bit about where you're from or what your likes or dislikes are and all of that. I see a question here from Steven about pictures that match fields. Okay, plumber parts, something like that. Absolutely. I'm sure there's stock, vector images of something like that. You want this to be your page and says who you are as a professional. I would absolutely suggest to do something like that. Again, if you can find something that is a crisp image that looks clean, absolutely, do something like that to kind of customize your page. It's a unique feature, of that particular site. I think it's something that you should definitely utilize if you can. So in professional experience, and this is going to be from here on out kind of where we talk a little bit more about the connectivity features of LinkedIn. On the left-hand side here, I've kind of explained that experience section is going to allow you to tag companies that you've worked for previously or that you're working for now. So this feature is going to help make you a little bit more searchable on that platform. Everything you do and everything you add on this site is going to just kind of nudge you in that direction of just being a little bit more findable, a little bit more searchable. And I think ultimately that's the purpose of this outlet. But when you are able to do that and you're able to be findable, that's when folks like myself can throw in some search terms as we recruit and find somebody like yourself. So I'll show how that works here momentarily, but generally speaking, your professional experience, you can enter kind of what you've had on your resume. You're going to want your dates, you're going to want your job title, you're going to want your company name and all of that. As you go to search and enter that information, and I saw somebody ask if these slides will be available, later on, and I know you can go back and look through these. I'd encourage you to have this up as you kind of walk through this step by step. But as you type in your company within the job section, you're going to notice that it will populate, and it'll start to pull companies that maybe you're talking about. As I type in Baptist Health, there are about 1,000 different Baptists throughout the country and in the world, as LinkedIn's an international platform. So you want to make sure you have the right company you're tagging. Even with Baptist, again, I'm with Louisville LaGrange. There's also Kentucky, Indiana. There's corporate. There's Lexington Corbin. There's a number of different sites. So you want to make sure you're tagging to the correct company, the correct location, if there is a difference. But you want to make sure that you're using that auto-populated feature whenever possible. It looks a little bit more professional. It will show a nice little logo right next to that company. And again, that's what's making you searchable, where employers may want to look and say, hey, this company does something very similar to ours. Let's go look for some of their employees and see if we can't get them to come work for us. Again, job title is another field that will be searchable and will start to be auto-generated. So if you were search recruiter, that will come up and you can tag that specifically. I tend to suggest avoiding company specific job titles. If there's, level 2, I'm a clerk, level 3, I'm a customer advocate instead of maybe a customer service representative. Good recruiters and good HR companies will know, what companies have those types of titles to maybe go look for. But not everybody's like that. So the more you can kind of take that guesswork out and say, hey, I'm a customer service rep, or I'm a call center rep, I am a bank teller. The things you can do to make that as simple and consumable as possible is going to be what's most helpful. And likewise, we've already gone over that top section. It's okay to have gaps in your employment. Let's not get overly creative about how we're explaining those things. you're not an engineer, you're a domestic engineer. You're a stay-at-home mom, and that is terrific. I think that's all you have to say. Stayed at home, studied, I was a student, whatever you were doing, be honest, be real about where you were, because people are going to see those things and it doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel authentic. And it's okay. The authentic answer is the better one. So I would lean into that. That's my suggestion to people. But you want to highlight that relevant experience in as conversational formatting as possible. If you are going to use bullet points similar to a resume, make them concise, make them manageable. If somebody has gotten to your LinkedIn page, the likelihood is that they've probably seen your resume already. And if they have not, they probably will see your resume in the future. You want to make this a high level view of who you are, what you're capable of, and why that person wants to give you a call. I see a question from Sam West here. With a resume, maybe only listing professional experience. And is it a good idea to maybe list co-op type experience on LinkedIn? I say absolutely. I say on your resume, if you have the room for it, if it flows organically, I would include co-op information, internship information, volunteer experience or information. I think all of those things that can point to you being somebody that a company would want to hire are absolutely what somebody would want to have on this type of profile. It's a little tricky within this. You'll want to put it under professional experience because LinkedIn, they have another section that you could potentially put that under as a volunteer experience. But you really want to make sure that it's highlighted, and that experience section is probably the best place to do it. Again, show within that description. Share what it was. I did a co-op for this time. I learned this. I was responsible for this. Just make sure you kind of delineate and say what that experience was in particular. But I think that's a wonderful thing to have on the LinkedIn, especially if you're a new graduate, if you're changing career fields, if you're an entrepreneur, again, those kinds of things. If you're making that switch, utilize this source as an explainer, as the ability to explain why you've changed or what those things were, why somebody would want to hire you. Again, think back to dining services supervisor. Jane had a lot more to offer than that, but it's about how you kind of sell that experience. I see a couple more here that I'll piggyback on right away. Flipping job titles. Is there a way to hide these updates when posting? Yes, and I'm glad you asked that. There's actually just a feature. If you go to your settings, you can look over publish to my network is the phrase I think they use, and you can just click off. There's a number of different boxes you'll check for that. But basically you can say when I change jobs, when I change, experience, when I change job titles, you can basically say, I don't want that to post to my network, because it'll change, and you're right. It'll send a notification to everybody and say, Stephen has, changed jobs to accounts payable clerk, but Stephen's been with the same company for 6 years or what have you. So yes, if you go to your settings, you can change the publish features there. The open to work hashtag I'll kind of touch on here shortly as I talk about making posts. I've seen that on a lot of resumes as well, as they go out into Indeed or some of these other sites. We'll talk about those hashtags here shortly as well, Yvonne. So we can move to the next page. So it's kind of just a refresher or a reminder. It's okay. It's okay to have gaps. It's okay to be, changing work. I would enter those gaps as if they were a job, for the sake of that experience section on LinkedIn. You can say self-employed, you can say stay at home, you can say student, enter it as if it were a job. I want to know what happened between 2014 and 2016. There's a big old gap. You've been working the rest of your career. It just gives recruiters or HR folks a little bit of pause. And it's better to utilize that opportunity to say, here's what I was doing. I say similarly on a resume within your summary section to say, hey, I previously took some time to study this field. I changed career paths, but now I'm interested in this job. Same kind of thing. Again, we're not overselling. We're not being overzealous about the job title we held while we were out for those 2 years or what have you. But explaining that time frame is helpful. You don't have to do that. It's a personal suggestion from what I've seen. It takes some of the guesswork out of things later. Sometimes folks will not have information for a couple years or something, but they were working. They just had 12 different jobs, or they didn't like what their job was. They didn't leave in such a great manner. And those are things that we'll find out as a new employer or a potential employer. And so it just gives us pause. Is this person not telling me where they worked because it ended poorly? Is this person not telling me because they had lots of jobs and they don't want to look unstable? Or, hey, is there a great reason and they were working at home, or they moved, or they were taking care of grandma, or what have you? If you can explain that time away in a way that is perfectly normal for an employer to understand, I say do it. Again, I'll reiterate, I'm a huge proponent of worker and employee rights, of just personal rights. Make sure you avoid sharing too much protected information. And what I mean by protected information, again, would be anything about, generally speaking, your race, gender, ethnicity, orientation, religion, disability, any number of those things. But specifically in this section, if you had significant health issues, don't say those specific health issues. You don't want to give an employer a reason to be concerned about you, whether that's financially, whether that's is this person going to stay with me for a long time. You don't want to have this section shoot you in the foot. You want it to sell for you. So just be cautious. What does an employer need to know, and what don't they? And if you're not comfortable, I use the example again of maybe a working mother, and I understand how difficult it is, especially now with COVID, of being a parent, and being a professional and being an employee. If you're concerned that that's something that an employer may look at and right or wrong have those thoughts about, then don't put it. But again, this section should be able to sell for you. These are my suggestions, but it's 100% a case-by-case sort of situation, where you want to make good sure that this is working for you, not against you. Kevin Kennedy says, how would you treat gaps due to layoffs? Similar type of situation. At the end of that job, that you had through 2019. Maybe one of the first couple, bullet points or sentences you have there, worked for this company that did X, Y, and Z. I was responsible for this. Unfortunately, went through a company-wide layoff in 2019, seeking new job opportunities since. Would certainly put that in a summary section or about section up top. Have been seeking employment since, my layoff and this time frame. Especially just lean into the fact that it was not just me. This was company-wide. Something that's verifiable, I think, is great to put there. It shows you didn't quit, you didn't walk out. Just the situation you ran into, that happens. There's another question here, Jana. What insight do you have for someone applying for work from home jobs in later term pregnancy, and how to address these for childbirth? It's a difficult one. I don't pretend to have had personal experience in the situation itself. It's a situation where an employer is obviously going to find out, and it depends how you want to kind of look at that and play that. They owe you nothing, just to be frank with you, again, from a worker's rights sort of situation. You're employable now, and that's what's important. What you need to look at personally is when your benefits, would become eligible, and when those go into effect, if there are any, and what your time off looks like too. I think that's a good conversation to sort of bring up, to start to have. As far as LinkedIn is concerned, I would not put anything like that on your LinkedIn profile. Expecting mother, something like that, I would walk away from that. I would avoid that type of language on to be published. But as far as applying and starting to have those conversations, I would wait a little bit within that process, just so it's not like hey, we're going to lose this girl in a week. Let's not get to the next interview. Make sure they're kind of on the hook a little bit for you first, frankly, as you start to bring those types of questions up. To reiterate with the layoff section, I would list it at the end of your professional experience for that particular job. And if that's the most recent gap that you had, like if you're still out of work because of that layoff, then I would put it in your about section as well. So we can move on to the next section with some additional tips here for your profile. And I kind of have some of mine on here that you'll see a high level view of. I have the Forcht Group of Kentucky, and you'll see an explainer for what that company is, because they did a lot of different things. You'll see Aerotech right below that, again, with a description of these couple different jobs. And I have mine kind of just in sentence paragraph format. If you've worked for a small company, maybe potentially a known company, or if you've relocated, somewhere like that, if I moved back home to Chicago, I think people would be confused about what the Forcht Group is, because it's a local Kentucky company. So it's great to have an explainer of what that company is, what they do, and what you did for them within that context. The fact that the Forcht Group was so diverse was important for me as a recruiter to say that I did a number of different types of recruiting. I worked with a lot of different types of people. And similarly with Aerotech, you kind of see as you scroll through there. My first one as an account manager, I was working in administrative accounting, customer service. But right below that, I kind of have a little bit more of a description of the company. I was making outbound calls. I had specific metrics, kind of working from there to explain who I am, but also what those jobs were, because a lot of our professional experience really molds us as future employees of what we've been used to and what we're capable of. If you're having any trouble kind of coming up with content for this section, I'd 100% say go look the job up. If you're not working there now, there's a great chance your company may be hiring for, or that company may be hiring for their position again. And so you can look at their job description and kind of pull some of those key things to see what they were looking for. But this is, again, a section where you kind of want to explain what your company does and what you did for them. As you kind of, separate and differentiate this just a little bit from your resume. So next slide, please. Again, to reiterate, if somebody's seen your LinkedIn page, they probably have seen your resume, and if they've not, they're about to, if they're interested in interviewing you and working with you. So don't just copy paste, create something new. Make consumable content, but something that's different. So from here, after the experience section, we have education. And again, much like this here, our experience section, on the next slide, education, license, certifications, very similar in that you can tag and connect to different educational institutions, certifying bodies, a number of different things, which is a great way to get found. It's a great way to verify and legitimize your experience. Make sure that you're finding the correct school, certifying body, what have you, as you connect and tag yourself to those companies. I always say, very much like your degree on a resume, even if you haven't finished it yet, share the work you've done. There's a way to say in progress or not yet complete. You'll want to show that you've done some of that work, especially if that degree is something that's going to be helpful for you in finding this new job or this new career path. Or even if it's just, hey, I've got an associate's. I haven't finished the bachelor's yet, but if you require that, I've at least got that work towards it. So again, LinkedIn will allow you to enter that start date without an end date. Show the work that you've done thus far if it's possible. So the next slide for education here, within that kind of mindset, is skills and endorsements. I think this is a great opportunity to utilize the networking features of LinkedIn. And as we kind of get towards the tail end of the presentation, that's what this focus is going to start to shift to. In the skills section, much like these other sections we've talked about thus far, LinkedIn will allow you to search a list of pre-populated keywords that describe your experience and your knowledge base. They'll create suggestions for you based on the information you've created thus far. So that's why we're kind of walking down that page on your profile. All that work and all that information you've entered to this point will start to automatically generate keywords and skill set that you may have that LinkedIn says you should think about tagging to your profile. Just another thing that kind of helps make you more findable on that platform. The great thing about this from a networking perspective is that if you add certain skills, connections on LinkedIn can actually then endorse you for those skills. This is a virtual reference, just like you would have somebody say, hey, call my boss, John will tell you I was a great employee. You can put these skills in here, and John can click to endorse you for them. They can also leave like a reference on your page, or they type out a note and say, Drew was great at this, worked for 4 years, whatever. But this endorse feature is a quicker way of doing that, where it basically just legitimizes, a little bit about what you've done. I can add anything I want. I can add engineering to my skills if I really wanted to, and I'm not a lick of an engineer. But this endorsement feature can kind of help a little bit, kind of verifying those types of skills. We'll kind of see on the next slide here, I've shown it. There's this take skill quiz, and this is relatively new. Indeed has a similar feature to this as well. But LinkedIn will offer assessments to you based on the experience and qualifications that you've put in, again, thus far. If you click that take skill quiz box, they'll recommend quizzes for you. So if you've put in use Microsoft Excel, there might be a Microsoft Excel test that comes up. Customer service, there may be just different kind of things that it shows to you that again can help verify the skills that you've put in and show employers, hey, I'm not just making this up. Not only did I do it for 4 years at this company, but here's a test I just took that showed I'm competent. Again, kind of relate back to the resume that you all did here recently. It is basically a way of verifying that skills or keyword section that you may tag to the bottom of your resume. It is basically a way of saying, hey, yep, I do those things, and here's the proof. It's really a really cool feature. The nice thing about it too is that if you take a test and you happen to bomb it for whatever reason, it's not going to be published. We talked about those settings and those public preferences or not, just like Facebook kind of has as well. These will not be published unless you choose to share them, and you have to do so manually. It's not something you can change to happen automatically. You have to take that test. It will show you your result, and then you can click share to network. It'll share to your page then as well. But you see I have a few that showed up on the side here. .NET framework. I am not a programmer, a network person. That probably came up off some other keywords that I've had of maintenance and the things that I've recruited for. But again, this will show anything. You can search your own skill quizzes as well. These are just some suggestions that that particular outlet can make for you. So on the next slide, we have the last little section. Yes, John, you can take the skills tests over. Yes, good question. You can take them more than once, and you don't have to share them if the results are not what you'd like. The next section here is kind of the last small section of information that you'd put in. Is your interest section. I think this is something that's sort of gone by the wayside a little bit with resumes, where we really gear that a little bit more professional. I'll see every once in a while an interest section on a resume. It feels a little out of place to me. I'm a younger generation. Maybe that was something from a different generation, but that's something that I've struggled with a little bit on a resume, of just finding the value in. But on a platform like this, where it's a social media outlet, I think it's very helpful. It will allow you to follow pages and tie yourself to some other, maybe outlets. There's an anthropology network that I follow on LinkedIn from a study I did in school 10 years ago. But I still see interesting articles. This is an awesome place to kind of invest your time and invest yourself in a field you're maybe interested in, a career path you want to walk down. But similar to all those other sections, there are searchable words and groups and pages that you can start to follow. But again, you can follow educational institutions, general interest groups, research articles. It's just another way to connect with like-minded professionals on this outlet. It's a great way to see new people popping up on that platform and have them see you as well. a lot of times things will come up on the side of that page that will say, hey, connections from this group like this article. You can comment on it, you can have discussions about it, but it's just another way to kind of build that web out further and further, and start to meet more people on that platform. We talk about, maybe another question here, placing awards, postgraduate scholarships, professional organizations. If you're able to tie those to a job or an educational institution, I would do them there. Under your education, you can put notes or interests, things like that within the degree. And that's something where, as I was a new grad, I put in some things that I was involved in while I was at school. That's a great place to talk about scholarships, to talk about other things that you've done, maybe research projects, things of that nature, any awards you won. Similar to your job, you want that, to be consumable. So if you're talking about your general profile there, yes, if you've won some awards through that job, if you had special recognition, promotions you took, tie those things to the specific outlet from which they came. Is my suggestion for that there. So I'm sure everybody kind of wants to know how to search for jobs, and how to use this more than just another Facebook, because I'm sure we all get enough Facebook and everything else these days. So the great thing about LinkedIn is it's very much expanded as a job search platform, similar to profile or platforms such as Indeed, Career Builder, ZipRecruiter. Monster used to be a big one. It's a great resource for actively seeking out new employment, and you can do so in a number of ways. You can look through companies and those pages that we talked about earlier. We can find recruiters that may be able to help connect us with places. We can look up different companies. We can look up different education. As we look up different connections, we can see where they've worked, and we can just straight away search for jobs. So as we move to the next page here, what you'll see is the how-to.
Hey, Drew, just a heads up that we have about 10 more minutes left for content.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So this last section here will show you exactly where to search, how to look, and what this is going to look like. So LinkedIn will suggest specific searches for you. They'll have that recommended for you bar that will basically say, hey, we saw all these things on your profile. Maybe these are some job titles you want to look for. The one piece that LinkedIn will do is it's a little bit more general on the locations. So you may have to search a nearby metropolitan area. If you're living in Paris, for instance, you want to look in like the Lexington group. If you're in Shelbyville, you'll want to pull towards Louisville. You can add a couple of those, but you will need to kind of tinker with that search just a little bit. But know that companies are doing the same thing. So you'll want to go to that search bar, type in your job title, or just click one of those suggested searches, and it will bring up, just like you see down here, the recommended for you. It will show something similar. It will show you when the job was posted, who else works there, which is a nice resource. You can see here I have 3 connections that happen to work for another healthcare facility in Louisville. I can click or connect with those people and say, hey, I saw this job open. Do you know anything about it? A great way to ask for a referral. If you go to the next slide here, just to kind of piggyback off of that, you can typically apply to these jobs directly with your profile on LinkedIn, which is a great reason to have a full complete profile. But basically from there, some of them will redirect you to a company website, something like that. But it's a great way to find jobs that may not be posted elsewhere, or may be difficult to find elsewhere. So that's why this is a really nice feature. Again, there's a few different ways you can do it. Search a company, go look at Baptist Health and see what's posted under there. Go to the job search, find people. There's a number of ways to search for different jobs here. As I move ahead to the creating a post spot here, the last couple of slides, Caroline, I'll tell you, is the paid version of LinkedIn worth it? I'll give you, and it depends. I would lean towards saying no, frankly, from a job seeker perspective. From an employer perspective, I had premium. It was very worth it. It gave me a lot of different tools to connect with people. From a job seeker perspective, I don't see that being the same kind of efficacy. But but it's worth a trial. I think they give you a trial period where you can kind of look into it without making a payment. Just make sure you stop it if you don't want to make the payment. But it is a little pricey, I feel, for the platform from a job seeker perspective. As an employer, I very much enjoyed using their paid service. As far as creating your own content outside of your page, you'll see an example of a post just like Facebook or anything else. You can create a post. You can tag businesses and people. It will send them a notification they've been tagged. You can put that back to your page, and it will come up on your homepage as you kind of scroll through and see new articles, those interests, those people that you've connected with. It's a great way to broadcast. Maybe if you had any events coming up, like today, we have, this is an old one I have screenshot, but just kind of broadcasting information like that. You can share your success stories, talk about something with partners, discuss subjects of mutual interest. We very much want to, as we move ahead to the next slide here, we want to create content that maybe engages with partners, whether that's just talking about employment market. Hey guys, what have you seen in your job search? I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, or I've enjoyed this. Or talking about industry specific topics. I've seen a lot of people, I did a lot of maintenance hiring and a lot of manufacturing, industrial. I very much get a lot of those articles still talking about the coal industry or talking about new equipment or new technology. Things like that are great to kind of invite folks to communicate with, and then that gets shared around a little bit more, and your profile becomes more public. You want to use a picture, a graphic, a link, something like that. It boosts within the platform's algorithm, so it shows to more people. I don't know why they do that, but they really like having a picture on there. So I just suggest doing something, even if it's just a general stock image, kind of like we talked about earlier. My don'ts for this particular section will be creating posts and just tagging a lot of people you maybe don't know. It's great to use those features and find recruiters. Message them directly. Don't tag them through this post feature. You don't want to tag a lot of people all at once, especially if they're not connected, because the more comments and things that kind of come through, it just creates a lot of notifications. If you don't know somebody, you don't want to tag them or attempt to reach somebody through that public post. And then again, obviously, you don't want to talk poorly about your current or previous employers, especially when you're tagging them. They will get the notification and they will see things we want to be cognizant about. Don't forget, it's not Facebook. Facebook shouldn't have half the stuff it has on it anyways either, but let's avoid talking about politics. Let's avoid talking about anything that we wouldn't talk at the dinner table about. We want to keep it professional. We want to engage with our professional network and our community, really more than anything else. The last slides here, searching for your connections. Just like you search for those jobs, you'll use that top bar there. It's just like Google. You can look up a company, you can look up a keyword, manufacturing, and it'll pull a bunch of people, a bunch of companies. You can look up somebody from school, anything at all through there. On the next slide here, what I'll suggest to tell you is to look up recruiter, talent acquisition partner, something like that. I did a quick search here, and you see, 3 out of about 3,400 recruiters in the Louisville metropolitan area. But by searching that, you can identify people who say that they're a recruiter and send them a connection. You'll have to use some of those filters I've shown, again, with the area, the location. Connections is just whether you're already connected or maybe they're a first, second, third connection. But what you'll want to do here is use some of those things. Current companies, to answer your question, Todd, if you want to look through a specific industry, you can tag a bunch of companies. You can search a bunch of companies all at the same time for recruiter or HR. And that way you can kind of focus that search, within the field, because you'll see here, you see Northwestern Mutual, which is finance, executive recruiter, which sounds like a search firm, and then IT. So yes, you're right. This is a lot of kind of different types of people. So you can narrow that path down a little bit. If you write recruiter and then the word and, you can search manufacturing, maintenance, banking, healthcare. That will show you people with recruiter as well as that word in their profile. And that's another great way to search for people. The next slide just shows, what a few of these can look like when you go to a company's page. I've got my company here, Baptist Health Louisville. If you click on that profile, just like your own page, and you click on the people bar on the side of the page, you will see anybody who has their own page tied to that web page, to that company. And that's where you can connect as well. So again, if you're looking for a specific company, you can connect, and say, great, this person's going to know who I am. I can send them a message once we're connected. Hey, I'm interested in job opportunities. But this is just another means to an end. They're the same search. You're going to get to the same people. This is just the way to do it for a company versus just kind of a more, all involved type of route there. So lastly, from there, some things to remember, some, kind of pieces of what LinkedIn looks like. My network is just going to show your invitations. The next tab for jobs, obviously, is going to show you that, that direct pathway to looking for work. Messaging is just like the direct message feature on Facebook. You can connect privately with anybody that you're interested in. That's what I would suggest doing if you're trying to connect with a recruiter or somebody from a company. That would be the means to go about talking to them once you're connected. Notifications just telling you what's happened to your network since you last logged in. And if you do the Me drop down, it will show you your own profile. You can make your own edits. It'll show you what your page looks like to other people. And that's where you'll go to kind of wrap your own page up. So, lastly, I'll just tell everyone, make your profile professional. Make sure you understand your information is public to your own employer, to your potential employers. There is a box at the top of LinkedIn to rope back around to that open to work question earlier that will say open to work. You can click yes on that. You can say to my entire network. You can say to just people that have the employer or the job title recruiter. You can basically ban your employer from seeing that. So if you're doing a confidential search, they won't know that you have it. But basically what I'll say is that's an awesome feature that LinkedIn just rolled out recently. Use the open to work feature if you are. It will notify your network if you choose for it to do so. It is an awesome feature to say, hey, I'm not just looking at this person's profile, but they're looking for work. I'm going to give them a call. Make this unique. Make it yours. It's a social twist on your resume, but it's a great service if you use it correctly, but you have to put in a little bit of the work and make sure you find it. So I know we're a little tight on time here. I've got my email address, my LinkedIn profile on the next page here, and that's what I have for us today. I know there's some other questions here, Amanda. We can take those offline, do them here, however is best, but I very much appreciate your all's time. It's great to connect with you. I wish everybody the best of luck here this year.
Thanks so much, Drew. I think what we'll do is we'll finish up the rest of the content that we have for Job Club, but if you'll hang out after we wrap up that, we'll come back to some other questions. So in the chat, if you have additional questions for Drew, go ahead and put them in there and we'll get to them soon. All right, for now, we're going to shift over to Diana.
All right. Okay, attendees can share job leads, and we do that through our webinar chat box. So if there's anyone out in the program area today that would like to share a job lead, please do so now. And if there are employers in the audience, we would also like for you to share any job leads that you may have at this time. And you can use the raised hand function, and we will give you the opportunity to speak and share your job lead. So we'll wait just a few seconds to see if there are any out there to acknowledge. If you would rather wait and email us job leads, we need those by noon today. And let's see, one's popped up here and I'm going to read that right now. Well, let me just finish this. But you can send your job leads to us by noon today at UK Alumni Career at uky.edu. And we'll include them in our job lead list that's sent out in our newsletter later this afternoon. Okay, so we have a payroll and tax supervisor position available at East Kentucky Power. So thank you, Andrea, for sharing that today, payroll and tax supervisor position. Anyone else would like to share that in the chat box, a job lead? And again, just include those, email us today, and we will get those out to everyone in our newsletter later on this afternoon. By noon today, we need those. Any employers, last call, would like to speak today? Okay, well, we'll move on to some good news. Oh, I see from Andrea that they're also looking for an engineer, mechanical or chemical. So at East Kentucky Power, we have some engineering positions available. Thanks again, Andrea, for sharing that. Well, we always like to share some good news. And so on behalf of Cooperative Extension, not only in Fayette County, which you can see on your screen now, some of our program areas and our Facebook pages and website addresses, as well as our YouTube channels. So I really would encourage you to visit all those for a wealth of information, and then to also plug into your local Cooperative Extension office in your county or in your state. So there's always a great deal of not only resources, information, but lots of good programming. And I would like to mention a few that are happening at our office. And we are entering a time where we like to give. We're thinking of the end of the year. The holidays are approaching very quickly. There's already lots of decorations up inside and out. And the Fayette County Cooperative Extension always participates in Joy of Giving. And that is an outreach to nursing care centers, those who are less fortunate, especially this year in 2020, where there's been lots of isolation, the inability to visit even with loved ones. So we are continuing our campaign to collect some from a long list of approved commodities that these residents need, as well as monetary donations this year, because we know that the nursing centers know what are the needs of the residents there. So if you would like to participate in the Joy of Giving, please contact us and we'll let you know how to do that. We also are reaching out and we'll continue in our military missions campaign. And this is for any of our military that is located outside of the United States. So we also are providing face masks this year, donation of face masks, as well as monetary, so that they can ship all the needed items that are requested by those that are serving us in the military. So those are two outreaches. If you want to get involved, these are nonprofits and we would appreciate that. As far as programming, we are having a Big Blue book club. It's going to start in January, but you register now. And our first book is going to be How of Happiness. And the author is Sonia Libonsky. And so we're going to kick that off on January the 5th at 7 p.m. And a specialist from the University of Utah, Dave Schramm, is going to lead the first session. So we just invite you to it's free, to be involved in that. And we just feel like it's an appropriate book and a subject to study, the How of Happiness. So I think there's 6 sessions of that. So contact our office if you're interested. We're also in the midst of November, a Use Less, Spend Wise challenge. So check out all the different challenges that we have in place for you, and participants will complete those activities that are designated to help them use less and spend wisely. So we got lots of great suggestions. And of course, anyone that participates gets a very nice tote bag, insulated. So and just FYI, the Use Less Stuff Day is November the 19th. 2020. So there is a designated day for that. And last but not least, we are programming or presenting a program on holidays at home. So we know holidays will probably be a lot different for lots of our families this year. So we have lots of good programming and resources, videos and demos on budgeting, turkey, and building memorable moments. So it's holidays at home with extension, and we just again invite you to visit our website, our Facebook pages, and connect with us.
Good morning, everyone. Wanted to give you an update on a few Alumni Career Services programs. Tomorrow during lunchtime, Amanda and I will be presenting a Facebook Live Q&A session targeting LinkedIn. This is LinkedIn month. And we have a career management webinar series lunch meeting next week that will go more in depth on some various areas of LinkedIn. We hope you'll register for those at ukalumni.net/career events/career events. Next. Also, as a reminder, we've put in the chat box, our graduate assistant Queen has some openings for resume review and interview practice. You can snag one of those sessions with the link that's in the chat box. She can work you in pretty quickly and take advantage of that opportunity. Next. Lastly, UK Alumni Career Services are a benefit of membership for active and life members of the UK Alumni Association. You can receive 2 career counseling sessions a year with a nationally certified career counselor. That's me or Amanda. And you do not have to be a graduate of UK or have attended UK in order to join the association and take advantage of individualized job search, career assessments, interview practice with one of us. So we have a couple of options here that you can take advantage of, either with our graduate assistant or for more in-depth sessions with me or Amanda. Next. Information on all that can be found on our website, ukalumni.net/career. Next. I'm going to turn it over to Nicole for an update from STEPS.
All righty, so hi again. As we come near to the end, I definitely don't want to fail to mention some of the positions that we have open at the University of Kentucky, STEPS Temporary Employment Office, or in that office, I should say. So the first job that I'm going to mention is a STEPS COVID response team member. Let's see here, some of the skills needed for this position are high school diploma, attention to detail, and basic computer skills. And so we definitely want to watch out for that one. And I'll share the links to the positions, but these will also be posted. I'll share these so that we have them posted later today on LinkedIn. So let's see here. The next position is a STEPS field service technician. And so some of the skills for that position, workstation hardware, of course, Windows, application installation, Microsoft Office, just to name a few. And let's see here. Another job lead that we have is a STEPS COVID communicable disease response tech. Skills, obviously, are communication, computer skills such as Excel and Word, customer service, healthcare terminology, and knowledge. So let's see here. And then the last one that I'm going to share with you guys today is a STEPS materials management tech position. Let's see here. In this position, of course, would include exceptional customer service, planning and organization, time management, attention to detail, listening and communication skills. In addition, this individual, of course, needs to have the ability to perform under pressure and meet deadlines. And our need for that is definitely increased. For this position is definitely increased as well, due as an impact of COVID, I should say, as we need more materials in the hospital. So those are some, as I mentioned, that we have, and it looks like I think Amanda shared a link there, and so we'll have these other links posted later on. So I'll go ahead and pass this over to Amanda to get us all closed out. What a wonderful session we had today.
Absolutely, Nicole. All right, next time at Job Club, Nicole's our main speaker. She's going to be talking on the benefits of working in temporary positions, and she has the insights working at UK Steps Temporary Employment. So we're excited to have her insights and expertise presenting for us. I did copy and paste the registration link for November the 24th into the chat. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and stop the Facebook live stream, and we'll invite Drew to come back up and answer some more questions. On behalf of the UK Alumni Association, UK Cooperative Extension in Fayette County, and UK HR Steps Temporary Employment, thanks so much for logging into Job Club today.